to this FoodSense webinar. So we like to do this webinar once a month, and this is really kind of where we do some live demonstrations. So we do webinars during the week, and we do answer, and we also do online training. So myself and Solrun actually have just been doing some online training with some clients in China, but we do this webinar then to essentially, and I realize I'm not actually sharing my screen at the moment, but we do this webinar once a month as well to do some sort of live demonstrations as well. That said, let me go forward a little bit quick. So today we're going to talk about FoodSense Generation 4. You can obviously download and I say obviously, there's an app that can be downloaded from the Play Store, and there's also an app that can be downloaded from the Apple App Store. In fact, in front of me, I'll just change cameras really quickly. So I just want to kind of show you that, in fact, this is not going to be all talking and slides. It's not really the Zimmer Peacock way. I do have a FoodSense Generation 4 with me. I do have some chili sensors. I do have an unknown sample. And I also have my colleague Solrun online as well, who will also be doing some demonstrations as well. So you'll be getting both a live demonstration on this hardware from myself, and you'll be getting one from Solrun as well. But I will go back to the slides just very quickly, and I just wanted to do that because I wanted to give you some context as to, as you hear all these words, that this is not going to just be all words. There is actually at least two demonstrations, one for myself and one from Solrun this morning as well. If you do download the app, what you'll find out is that the app is really a portal for a cloud system called Julie. Now, this will become apparent what I mean by Julie very shortly, but I just want to assure you that you will get a result on your phone, which is very clear, and you can just write it down, and that will tell you the Scoville Heat Unit of a particular sample. But also understand that the results will also be saved up to the cloud. And it's useful because if you're running a quality system, you know where your data is. And it's also useful that if you need to then troubleshoot, or a customer is kind of queried, then you will actually have the raw signal and the result also saved in the cloud as well. Today we're going to primarily focus on chili, though the FoodSense Generation 4 can do things like ginger, pH, total antioxidative capacity, and it can also do glucose as well. It's probably worth saying that if you're joining live, don't worry about it. This is recorded, and we will be uploading and sending you a link to this recording later on as well. So the FoodSense Generation 4 does offer rapid test. So you'll see that this afternoon. This afternoon. I keep saying this afternoon. You'll see that this morning. One thing I would say is the test itself is very quick. It's sometimes the sample prep, which actually takes some time. So we were just doing a demonstration to some customers in China, and there we were having a whole conversation about, are they testing chili powders? Are they testing chili flakes? Are they testing purees, which is basically just chopped up chilies? So it's sometimes the sample prep that takes the time, and I will expand upon that. If you're testing things like and people criticize this, if you're testing something like a sauce that's kind of liquidy like this, then that's actually quite easy, because essentially the sample's already in the liquid phase and you're just doing what's called a dilution. But if the sample is in the solid phase, you're doing an extraction, because you want to get the capsaicin into the liquid phase. So the test is rapid, but that's not the same as the extraction, let's say. The cost per test is definitely lower cost. You shouldn't really be throwing, but these sensors cost €3.50 each. And I know that the HPLC, the cheapest place that you can get HPLC done in is probably in India, which is about $25. I think in Europe it's more like $100. I have heard of labs in the USA maybe doing it at $50, but with that kind of stuff as well, as what I did notice about those low-cost labs in the USA is there's also quite a slow turnaround time on that as well. So this is rapid, and it's got a good cost per test. We do own an HPLC at ZP, so we do know what when I say competition, high performance liquid chromatography, something that people talk about. It's not half as quick, easy to use, or anywhere near low cost that people otherwise think, and it's not as precise as you otherwise would think. Now, what we have here is an objective test, and what I mean by that is we will display a result on the phone in real time today, but we will also be able to prove the result by actually looking at the data in the cloud as well. So that gives us an objectivity. We have the raw signal. It's an objective test. It's not a organoleptic test. It's not just taste and opinion. There's a transparency to it. We get the number, Scoville Heat Units, and we get the raw data behind it as well. And it's also got traceability, that the time, date, who did the test is all known because it's all saved automatically in the cloud. So it can really play a part in quality control, either incoming quality control, process quality control, or outgoing quality control. I think something that happens, especially for people who are preparing chili products, they don't have much process quality control. So what I mean by that is, let's say I was trying to make a consistent sauce. So let's say I was making the bomb. Now, at the moment, they probably don't have a way of actually knowing in real time, as they make a batch of this product, they don't have a way in real time of knowing what the Scoville heat unit is. So they're probably just adding by mass or weight, or this much chili, this much oleo resin, maybe this much powder, but they don't have a way of actually, because if those incoming materials are variable, then what they make is also variable. But when, of course, you've got real-time measurement, you can do a quick measurement. It means you have process quality control because you can actually measure it. You can say, don't add any more, add some more, and that gives you PQC. So we can play a role in incoming quality control, process quality control, and outgoing quality control as well. And I think its cost and speed of test gives us a uniqueness when it comes to process quality control. And we have helped people to get a more controlled product through the process quality control. We've tested a lot of samples over the years. We've tested mayonnaises, spicy mayonnaises. We've tested Nando's hot sauce. We've tested chili oils. We've tested chili honeys. We've tasted other chili oils. In fact, we were just having a conversation just now because somebody said I've got an oil, and we were just in one of our online training sessions. We're just teaching them how to deal with a chili oil, because when you look at a chili oil like this, like I'm holding up to my camera, there's oil and solids in there. So we were just talking about how to test something that's fundamentally what I would call heterogeneous. It's not standard. We've done obviously testing hot samples. This is another hot sauce, another hot sauce. This is probably testing some sort of chili powder because I can see Solon weighing something out. And this is probably testing the last video that I have here is testing a ginger shot. So change of, let's say, target in that case. Let me go forward. So we have done a lot of testing. We're pretty good at giving online training and doing online Q&As as well. The company's been around since 2014, so we're 10 years old today. Not today, sorry, this year. We are ISO 13485. This means that we're certified for the development and manufacture of medical diagnostics. When you look at what we're doing, and when you see our hardware, it actually would potentially remind you more of a medical, let's say, grade product than a food grade product. And that's because actually we spend most of our time doing medical diagnostics. But then if you're busy doing medical diagnostics, it's somewhat easier to then also do food testing technologies as well, or it's easier to come that way. We do have a large, diverse company. To do a product like we have, everything that we're talking about today is developed in-house. So that means we're manufacturing the sensors, we're manufacturing the electronics, we're doing the app development, we keep the cloud secure. We're even bottling up the buffer that comes with it. So you can appreciate that we got labs, electronic workshops, manufacturing, and a lot of development engineers. So if somebody is a customer of ours, then they will get personal online training. That's something that we've just been doing a good hour's training just now with a customer. Weekly webinars. So if we get a question in that says, how do I test, a chili powder? How do I test a mayo? Then we will answer those in weekly webinars. And then we do have these monthly webinars as well, where we kind of try and dig in a little bit deeper. It's probably just worth saying that last week, in fact, somebody had a chili powder, and once we know what the sample type is, then we are able to prepare SOPs, standard operating procedures. So there they had a chili powder. We went into our lab. We prepared a document where we said, well, we weighed out this much powder, we put it in this much buffer, we left it moving on a rocker, so that we were doing the extraction, and then we did the test, and then we actually reported our results as well in the document as well. So we're pretty good at, if somebody's actually a customer and they're having, let's say, some problems with a particular sample type, and that's the thing. So, there's so many different types of samples actually out there that we're having to deal with. Sauces, purees, powders, flakes, oils. There's so many different types of samples out there that we're always coming across new scenarios, let's say. And so we're quite happy to understand what people's sample types are, so that the SOPs can be either they already exist or they have to be written. So this product has been a long time in maturation. So there was a generation 1 product, there was a generation 2 product, we actually had generation 3, and now you're on generation 4. So when I sort of, the hardware that we now have is, and the technology that we have now, it's like getting a Tesla, but we're on Tesla Model 4 at this point. When I say getting like a Tesla, I'm just saying it's like, there's been a lot of learning over the years, and improvements. And some of the best improvements now actually are really in our accuracy and our precision and our ability to not only get the result on the phone, to get a nice easy result, but also our ability to actually have that data in the cloud, so that we can actually much easier to troubleshoot and help clients, because it's in the cloud. We don't have to be on site to see the data. We can just see it in the cloud if the customer decides to share it with us. So today we're on FoodSense Generation 4. It's smaller than previous models. It's definitely easier to use. I didn't train these two guys to actually use this unit. They actually just had watched me a few times just doing demonstrations and webinars, and they were actually able to run it themselves and do a good job. So unprompted. So we have a video online. So I say this because I challenge anyone that this is actually a hard unit to use. You can have a 10-year-old supported by a 6-year-old, and they can run this unit. And that's always been a thing at Zimmer Peacock. We will make it quite technical today, but fundamentally this is not a hard unit to actually run. So nowadays it's more accurate, it's cloud enabled. It's also got multi-analyte. Now I am going to mostly focus on chili today, but using QR codes, we can go to chili or ginger, for example, or total antioxidative capacity. We just find that most people actually are using this unit for doing chili testing. It's got some really nice mechanical features. So if you have one of these units, you will find out that it's super easy to handle. It's got a nice kind of weight about it. It's got an LED on the front that kind of tells you the status of things, in terms of what is the unit up to. You'll see some demonstrations from us today, and you'll also see that it's driven by QR code. So if we scan a QR code, it will tell the meter to do a chili test, or if we scan a different QR code, it will tell it to do, for example, a ginger test. Now, I have here actually, what I'm showing here is actually the unboxing of this unit. But we've just upgraded the boxing, in fact. So what I might just show you now is this is what the unit comes with like these days. I'll stop sharing for a second. So this is now what it comes in. You've got a nice little case. The FoodSense Generation 4 comes in here. You've got the cable, and you get 100 sensors in the box. I think something that's very powerful is actually the manual. Once upon a time, I thought that we would really have to give people training and onboard them, and it also comes with buffer, but I just want to talk about the manual very quickly. So it also comes with buffer as well. But what we've now found out is actually this manual is really quite a good guide because it's, it's slim, which actually illustrates really how easy this instrument is. Um, but it's so well illustrated, and so it tells you where to get the app from. It tells you all the steps in order to actually run something, and then it has all these kind of nice images on. There's only one button on this unit, and that's the on-off button, and we only put that on there so that people have that tangible feeling of actually having actually turned it on. Tells you how to run the app, etc. So nice box, units in there, the sensors are in there, the buffer's in there, and the manual is super simple. So we're actually finding now that people are actually running this unit before getting their online training. I'd like to take the credit for that, but it is absolutely our engineers. We've got some very good product design engineers in-house as well. I'll go a little bit faster because I think your time is important, and I also want to probably get on with doing more, let's say, demonstrations than necessarily just talking. Let me just get through this. So you can download the app now. The app is not useful to you unless you've got the hardware, but the app is available on both the Play Store and on the App Store. When you've got the app installed, you can use Ginger. You can change what the app is actually able to target just by using these QR codes. The way the system works is the app will tell the meter what to do. You'll put the chili sensor in there. When I say that, I'll actually show you for real in a minute. We'll put a sample on the chili sensor, and the meter will get the raw data, give the raw data back to the app, and you'll get a result on your phone. So you will get the Scoville Heat Unit in real time. But what's really valuable is actually the raw data signature for the capsaicin in your sample is saved to the cloud, along with the username, time, and date. And the Scoville Heat Unit is also saved online as well. So you've got a lot of traceability and transparency in this system as well. And it also comes with good support, because at ZP we really understand this product. The sort of frontline support people like myself and Solron, we really understand it as well. We don't have to go and ask somebody else. We more or less know it. I'm only showing you this because, in fact, this technology was originally licensed and patented by the university, or rather, is licensed by us from the University of Oxford, who have a patent on it. So it gives us, exclusivity around the world to be doing what we're doing. I'm not here to preach and talk to you about electrochemistry, but I just want you to know that this is the raw signal for a molecule called capsaicin. So I'm sure you know it. Anyone who's working in the kind of food ingredients market will know about capsaicin. It's the molecule that gives you the sensation of hotness, and it has a very distinctive raw signal when we analyze it on our equipment. That raw signal is not shown on the app, but that raw signal is actually saved to the cloud. And these peaks that seem to be appearing in front of you, these are the fingerprints. So don't think of them as peaks, think of it as the fingerprint for capsaicin. And they mean something to us. So when we're troubleshooting, if somebody didn't put capsaicin on there, we would know it instantaneously, because the peaks are due to specific reactions happening during the assay. And so the peak one that I've labeled here tells me, yeah, it's capsaicin. There's a chemical reaction called a hydrolysis that then takes place, which then leads to what we call peak 2. So if I see peak 1, that's the first evidence that the software is looking for, that's capsaicin. The software is then looking for peak 2. So you'll see this in our demo and our raw signal in a minute. So boom, here comes peak 2. And then there'll also be what's called a peak 3 as well, and I'll show you that. But each one of these peaks is absolutely telling us that is capsaicin. So software will record peak 1. It will record what we call peak 2. So that's the one here. And there's a sequence of events. See, the software is pretty smart. So it knows peak 1, peak 2, and then it waits, switches, and then if it sees this, there's your peak 3. And that's the fingerprint for capsaicin. So if anyone ever challenges you and says, how do you know it's capsaicin in there? I'm sorry, but you don't get 3 peaks like that in a certain order by accident. That's, it's a very distinctive thing, let's say, for capsaicin. One of the things that does confuse people a little bit is, what dilution should we be using? So if you're testing a mild sauce, and and I mean it very respectfully to the Hilney company, but this Tabasco is quite a mild sauce. That just requires a 1 in 10 dilution. The reason being is capsaicin is not super soluble. It's an organic molecule. So this sauce is the solubility of capsaicin in the buffer is about 500 Scoville heat units. So this sauce is about 5,000 Scoville heat units. So therefore, we do what's called a 1 in 10 dilution. Because if I divide the number 5,000 by 10, I get 500 Scoville heat units. If I have a hotter sauce, I wish I had a hotter sauce here, but maybe this puree. If this puree, I suspect is 50,000, then I would do a 1 in 100 dilution, because 50,000 divided by 100 is 500. So then I get back to my magic number 500. Now I know that the bomb is actually about 135,000 Scoville heat units. But let's say for simple maths, it's 500,000 Scoville heat units. Therefore, I would have to dilute that by 1,000, because then I would get to 500 Scoville heat units. But what I want to do is I want to do a bit of a demonstration actually for you to show you, if you don't know what your Scoville heat unit rating is, then the system is pretty smart and it will actually guide you in. So what I will do is I'm going to change cameras for a second. So just bear with me whilst I do that. Yeah. So I've got the unit in front of me here. I'll stop sharing that so it becomes a bit bigger for you. And I've got a sample. Whoops, today, yeah, even just dropped it. I've got a sample here of quite a hot sauce, but I'm playing the scenario that I don't know how much capsaicin is actually in this sauce. So what I want to do then is I'm going to bring my phone in. And on my phone, I'm just going to give it a quick name. So I'm just going to call this something like hot sauce 1 or something like that. So the reason I'm doing this is because the data will be saved to the cloud, and later on I can find it. Hot sauce 1, which is fine. I've done that. And I have my hot sauce 1 here, and it's unknown to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a process now where I'm going to think very quickly what I'm going to do. I'm going to take 100 microliters of that sauce. This is what I'm doing here now. I'm going to take 100 microliters of it. And I'm going to put it in this little vial. And I'm going to dilute it with 900 microliters of buffer. So 100 plus 900 is obviously equal to 1,000. So I've effectively done what's called a 1 in 10 dilution. So I'll take some buffer. So when I say some buffer, it's this chili pot buffer here that comes with the units. You get 500 mils. As you can see, I only need less than 1 mil to do this particular test. I put that in like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to vortex it, because a vortexer just shakes it so fast. I'll never be able to shake it at this. That is vibrating super fast. What it's meaning is I'm really blending that up. I'm really homogenizing that. We were actually just having an interesting conversation, because essentially the longer you do this for, then the more, let's say, extraction you get. Now with a sauce is already in the liquid phase, so it's actually quite easy to extract a sauce. So now I've prepared my sample. Now don't be super surprised if I get an error, because I'm deliberately doing this to generate an error. So let me take the sample. I'm going to put 50 microliters. 50 microliters. This is all in the manual, but I'm going to put 50 microliters on the sensor. So here it goes. Onto the sensor on the tip here. There's a very nice illustration of that in the manual, so don't worry about it too much. And then it says go to assay. And then what I'm going to do it asks me, what dilution did you use? And I've got a choice of 10, 100, 1000, 110. Oh, sorry, 10,000. I did 10. So I choose 10, start measurement. And at this point now, there's a progress bar that's rotating on my, there's a progress bar that's going around. I'm also getting the flashing light, let's say at the front of the unit. And so the whole thing is running the assay. So I'm going to let that go to completion. And I'm just thinking aloud to myself a little bit about so now it's actually come back with an error, but I was expecting that error. So I just want to kind of emphasize the error bit to it. So I just need to navigate some screens and find out where you are. Yep, here you are. So what I'll do now is I'm just going to show you that error just really quickly. If I just change to this camera here. So what it's saying to me at this point is it says too high. The too high means the capsaicin is basically too high. It says dilute more. That's the instruction. So I basically need to dilute some more dilution. And it also says upload complete. Now, when it says upload complete, I just want to share my screen with you just for a second. Because upload complete means that the data actually went to the data actually went to the cloud, and I'm able to actually see what that raw signal really looked like. Now, whilst it's uploading, what I'm actually going to do now is I'm just going to take that sample that was too concentrated, and I'm actually just going to do a quick but I'm going to do a further dilution on it. Before I do that, let me just share my screen for a second. So I want to show you this. What I'll do is I'm just going to find my data. So I can navigate to my data. I can find my unit. And then I can see my hot source 1 sample, which is what I just ran. And I can see in my raw signal that it's very intense. I can see that this is my signal, and it's clipped it here. And I can see when I look at my capsaicin peaks, they're very high. So I did this on purpose to show you that I did a 1 in 10 dilution, but the app told me it was too high. And I can see it in the data as well. But now I'm going to show you what I would then do to sort of hone in on this a little bit. So what I will now do is I will change cameras a little bit very quickly. Right. So I've got my sample. What I will now do is take 100 microliters of my sample, which I will do. Take 100 microliters of that. I'm just going to give it a quick vortex. I just want to make sure that I'm extracting everything. And then I will take 100 microliters of that. And put it into this vial. I'm just going to dilute it with 900 microliters of buffer again. Take that sensor out. So I've now done if I've taken 1 in 10 dilution and then taken 100 microliters of that and put it with 900 microliters of buffer, I've basically done now what's called a 1 in 100 dilution. I'll just vortex that really quickly. I would suggest you would spend more time in the sample prep, but obviously we're doing a live streaming demo here, so we're quite happy to, we're being a little bit faster. I'll take a fresh sensor now, which is what I'm about to do. Put that on like that. I'm just going to change the name in my app. So just so I can refine the data. So hot source, and I'll call it hot source 2. Done. And what I'll do now is I'm going to put 50 microliters of the sample onto the sensor. So let me do that really quickly and we'll get a result. I realize I might have used the wrong pipette as I was going a bit quickly then, but it'll prove the point anyway. Right, put the sample on. And Now I will go to assay, tell the software or the app that it's a 1 in 100 dilution, start measurement, and it's going to progress the assay now. I do have a flashing light on the front of this unit, which is telling me that the essentially the FoodSense Generation 4 is actually running. I've also got a progress bar on the front here. What it's doing when it's doing this is actually running cyclic voltammetry. So when I was giving you those slides earlier on about those very specific reactions, it's doing that experiment, but it gives you a very nice user experience. And so see what the results I get. So I got a result back of 35,500. So I will change screen so you can kind of essentially see that. So I got a result back of 35,500, but I also want to, I'll share my screen with you. It's also sent the data to the cloud as well. So I'm just going to do a refresh here. And there's my data. It's just popped up because it's gone to the cloud. This signal is now not all flat topped. You know, it's not been cut off. The signal here is much smaller, and my result is also saved. And also the date, the time, who did the operator who did the work, the raw signal, the result, it's all saved up there. So it's an objective, transparent test, very good for a quality control system, because you can troubleshoot it if something actually goes, let's say, wrong. Now, at this point, I'm going to turn my camera off, stop sharing my screen, which I have done, and let my colleague Solrun just step in and do another demonstration just to kind of, you know, give you a bit more of an insight into the equipment. So thanks, Solrun. But the classic Solrun, which shows we're live.
Yeah.
That's right. Good.
All right. So, yeah, maybe if I, well, all right, some flashing lights it is, but, so I'll show you how to test the powder. So I'll show you the close-up, which is here. You see the device that Martin showed, which is designed so it's easy to clean. It is designed for a lab environment, and as Martin said, we are using these devices ourselves, so we're making them convenient for a daily use. So in order to prepare a powder sample, I need to weigh out the powder. So here I have a scale, and I'll just weigh out some powder. And the reason why I do this live is just so that you can make sure that I'm not cheating and that the results that you're seeing is actually the true results. And also to show you just how easy it is to prepare. So I'm just adding some powder into this vial, just like that. All right, so we've got 8 milligram of powder. So then I expect this powder to be very spicy. So in order for me to test it, I will have to prepare a 1 to 1,000 mixture ratio. So if I have 8 milligrams of the powder, I would need 8 milliliters or 8 grams of the chili buffer. So just need to adjust the pipettes, and I'll show you a different view. So here is the powder that I weighed out. Then I will add 8 milliliter of the buffer, just like this. So add it into the tube, just like that. And then I will vortex it just to mix it up real well, because right now you can see that it's still laying around on the bottom. So put it on the vortex just like this, and I'll shake it for a while. And when it comes to powders, like this powder is a very fine powder, but the powder has the capsaicin really capsulated into the chunks and bits of the powder. So if you want as much of an accurate testing as possible, you will maybe even let it rest on the bench for a while, up to 24 hours, just in order to make that capsaicin be extracted into the solution. But you can see that it has changed color slightly just because the powder is coloring the buffer. But we will still be able to see the results for the capsaicin, but it might increase slightly, or the capsaicin concentration in the buffer might change slightly over the course of a few hours. Just as I said, it just needs time to really extract into the buffer. So what I would like to do now is to show you the app. So here is the app. It says that the device is connected because I connected it via Bluetooth. I've already chosen the chili sensor assay with the QR code, and I have my test settings. And test setting here, I've named the sample ID for powder just so it's easy for me to sort through my data later. So I'll click go to assay, and as I said, I have a dilution factor of 1,000. I have placed and locked the cartridge. We mixed the sample, and next thing for us to do is to pipette 50 microliter of the sample to the sensing area of the sensor. So, and after that, I'll start the measurement, but I'll show you close up as we do it. So 50 microliters. So here's the sample that we just prepared. And I'll pipette 50 microliters onto the sensing area of the sensor, just like that. And then I will click start measurements. So to show you, I'll click start measurements. And now you can see the progress bar. And I'll also show you the close-up here. You see that, again, the powder fell down to the bottom of the vial. It doesn't stay all over the solution, other than when I shake it, but it will fall down, and that's completely fine. The capsaicin in the powder is being extracted into the buffer, and you can also see some chunks and bits, and that doesn't matter. Like, just pipette it onto the sensor, even though you can see those grains of dried out chilies. So here we got the results back, which says that we have a Scoville Heat Unit of 534,000. So it's quite a pungent powder. And it also says upload complete. So let's go to Julie and look at the results there. So here is Julie, and I'll click refresh just so that it loads up that latest powder results. And here you see where it has a first scan and the second scan, where it analyzes the peak, and it also tells you what the Scoville Heat Unit count is and the micromolarity, just in case you forgot to write that down the first time. So that is really what I wanted to show you. So as you can see, it's fairly easy and quick to do.
Yeah, thanks, Solron. And it's really interesting actually because you did a 1 in 1,000 dilution, and I know that, you know, as people become more familiar with the kit, that was an intense peak. You know, so we saw the capsaicin peak and it was really intense, but yet Solron had done a 1 in 1,000 dilution. So it, you know, the sort of the signal, once you get used to it, you know, it was first of all, she got the result on her phone, so it came back at 500,000. You know, easy, write it down, you're done. In fact, you don't even have to write it down; it's saved already in the cloud. But in fact, that signal was intense, and yet it had been diluted by 1 in 1,000. So we do get people sort of coming to us and say, "Well, you know, it's not this, it's not that." And it's like, no, I'm so really sorry, but the signal does not lie. So I think in summary, FoodSense Generation 4 is it's a low-cost way of testing. It's a rapid way of testing. It will guide you to the right, let's say, dilution. And you saw today, actually, I tested a hot sauce, whereas Solron actually tested a chili powder. So it really does take care of very different sample types. And so if you've got any questions or you want to come to a future webinar, then don't hesitate to contact us. Otherwise, thank you to Solrun, and I will see you this afternoon for our second live streaming webinar. Take care and have a good day, people. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.